Hey guys, Chauncey Phillips here with a brand new video talking all about gallstones and living with gallstones and why I ended up, getting my gallbladder removed. If you guys have seen my videos, probably for the past like year and a half or so, I've always been talking about having gallstones and talking about I have to be really careful with what I eat and about attacks. I've always kind of mentioned it, but I've never really gone into details about the whole thing, what it's like to have gallstones, kind of what they are, the diet you had to have, to avoid having terrible attacks. So this video is kind of all about that and talking about kind of what made me decide to finally have my gallbladder removed, because like I've always been really afraid of having the surgery because I've never actually had a surgery where I was put under with anesthesia. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. So this whole thing is kind of all about the entire thing, and like I said, what made me finally decide to have this surgery. Now basically though, what is gallstones? Gallstones is something that happens in your gallbladder. It's kind of like these hard calcium type stones that get into your gallbladder. And it can happen from a lot of different things. Like if you have like a really high fat diet and you eat like a lot of fried things and a lot of stuff that's like huge amounts of fat, they can kind of like, over time, the stones form inside of the gallbladder. And the gallbladder is basically kind of used for like filtering out, kind of like digesting fats in your system. So like it kind of stores bile. It's basically kind of gross, but it stores bile, and that's what kind of like goes through your system and then helps get digest fat. But like I said, what can happen is you can form all these stones, which can cause like all these problems. And basically what I think with me, what had happened was before I started losing the weight in June of 2014. At that time, I weighed 456 pounds, but at that time, though, I was eating really bad, and I always ate Taco Bell and lots of fried things and all kinds of stuff, fries and all that. But one of the big things that can really cause gallstones is rapid weight loss. So if you lose a lot of weight, but it's kind of up in the air. But with me, I really feel like losing a lot of weight is what caused it. It's caused me to get them. And like I said, it's basically, though, these things that get into the gallbladder. And you can live without the gallbladder. You can have a little bit of problems, digesting fats. Like you still have this bile and all the stuff you need in your liver, but you just don't have as much of it stored like as a reserve. So if any of you guys, though, too, have like any of these kind of pains and stuff happening with you, this might be, to, let you guys know to check out your gallbladder and see if, have an x-ray and stuff to see if this could be what's happening with you. Because when I've talked to some people about it, they were like, oh, I have that happen to me after I eat something fatty, and maybe that's what it is. So it's like, I think it's actually kind of common. It can happen to a lot of people. I'm going to talk now about how I noticed there's something wrong, like how I was noticing there's something up with it. Because like, I was really changing my diet, when I was losing the weight, but I wasn't at first, though, really watching how fatty things were. Like I was still eating like, in the very beginning of the weight loss, I was eating like broccoli, cheese, soup, Panera bread. It was really, all I was doing at that point in time was counting the calories. So I wasn't really, of course I wasn't eating fried chicken. I wasn't eating like chips or cakes or any of that kind of stuff, but I wasn't looking at, like if I went, like I said, to Panera bread, I would eat the broccoli, cheese, soup, or I'd eat the grilled cheese and stuff like that. I wasn't looking at the fat at that point. I was still losing a lot of the weight doing it that way, but I wasn't paying attention to any of that stuff. And I think that is one of the things too that might have contributed to it happening. But what was happening though was, after I was eating, with certain times I would get this really bad pain in the middle of my chest, and it was like, what would happen too was it would go from this bad pain to then like really bad burps, like burp. And then sometimes even the videos, people in the past were saying, oh, Sean was doing all these like big belches or like the burps in the DVD updates and stuff like that. He must have had, the stomach surgery, a stomach staple or all those kind of things. There's the, or whatever those things were. Everyone was always kind of saying that. Some of the people were saying that. It was like, oh, that's a side effect of that. No, that was a side effect of gallbladders. Like, and to be honest, like I said, if I did have that surgery, the stomach surgery to make the stomach smaller, like you see in 600 Pound Life and stuff, I would have said that. I wouldn't have, pretended like I didn't. But that I'm going to go into all that too with, the surgery and the whole thing, why I'm so afraid of surgery. But basically, though, a lot of people were always saying that Sean's burping. Oh, that must be that he did that. But no, it was a big side effect of having those gallstones was after certain foods, like especially spicy foods. It was giving me that really bad burping and really, really bad pain that would kind of radiate. It was like a pain that would be right around here and then in your back. And it would happen after certain things. And then like what was happening though was, you know, like I said, what an attack is like is basically like it's this radiating pain, and I didn't know what it was at first. So I was like having these terrible things, and I'm like, am I having a heart attack? Like, this is in the very beginning of this. I had no clue what was happening, and there'd be times, and I remember like I was watching some movie like it was about like robots or something, and I remember like certain movies I don't like them because I had a bad experiences watching them while I was having these attacks, and I would have to get up from the seat and go and like burp these long, terrible, drawn out burps, and I had no idea what was going on. I thought like maybe it was just because I was changing my diet so much, and maybe it was like something was going on, or I was some kind of sickness, and it was just continuously happening. And then it would like, then it would go away, and then it would come back, you know, and then I was like, finally went to the hospital after having all these pains. I think I might have gone to the doctors first, and then they did all these x-rays, and then they discovered that it was, and they also discovered that my liver enzymes were really, really high. They were like 5 times what they should have been. That happened too the last time when I actually went to have the surgery. The liver enzymes were really high, which is really, really dangerous. But they were like, basically though, what causes an attack? Like I said, the attack though really is from high-fat things. So certain things were setting me off. Like it was like really weird. Like it would be like eggs. They're like things that had really high cholesterol in them, like shrimp. If I had certain type of like just like regular shrimp, so I was continuously having things that I could eat, and then like, but basically though, well, the bad thing though about the having, I don't want to get to that yet. The bad thing though about the gallstones though was some really dangerous things. There could be bad blockages in your systems, and you could actually die from it. And it, you know, it could actually rupture, and then it could cause jaundice, which means your skin gets really yellowed, and your eyes can get yellowed. And like, I actually feel like there were some times in some of the videos when I was, especially even when I looked at myself in the mirror, I felt like I looked a little bit off in color. And I think that was what was going on, was these gallbladder things. And I also so many times would go to bed and like be laying there or waking up the next day and having these like, oh, I feel horrible, I feel weird, I feel like shit. Like I was continuously having these like bad, like not really feeling right all the time, and like continuously just having this weird thing. And I'm gonna talk too about how I was kind of controlling an attack as well in a second, but it can cause jaundice and can basically poison your system, and it can cause like a terrible infection. So really, gallstones is something that you can deal with, and I was dealing with it for about 1.5 years when I found out, maybe a year and a half, but it can be very dangerous, and it wasn't the way I was dealing with it too. And discovered how to make them kind of go away if they were happening was starting to not work anymore, and also the attacks were happening way more. But like I said though, it can cause it causes belching and burping and this sharp pain. And when you would have a really, really bad gallbladder attack, it was basically like somebody took a knife and stabbed you in the chest. It was like a stabbing pain, and it would go and it would come in waves where it'd be like, okay, terrible pain, okay, and then it would, like, you think, okay, it was going away, and then it would come back again. And I had some of the attacks too when I was at the gym, and those were horrible because I was like on the machine, and then sometimes I would break out in this horrific sweat, and I would like be pouring sweat down. I was in the gym in the bathroom the one time, and it was awful. And then like not a place to have it happen, especially when you're on the treadmill and you don't know what's happening. And a lot of times on the treadmill, I was doing those, like I said, those burps, those terrible burps. Ugh. But now I'm going to talk to a little bit how I was controlling a gallbladder attack. And what I was doing, though, was I was really basically, watching the fat, constantly watching how fatty things were and looking up the fat of things. And I was kind of like, little by little, though, there was less and less and less I could eat, because I was like, oh, well, the last time I had that food kind of gave me a problem. The last time I had that, so I was continuously in my life subtracting things again and again and again. It was getting to the point where I was eating like nothing. I was eating the same thing. I was eating like beans with like vegetarian hot dogs mixed together, like vegetarian beans, vegetarian hot dogs, and this like faux noodle soup thing. And I wasn't eating like that, these kind of foods, because like I really desperately wanted to eat like that. I was eating like that because if I wasn't careful, I would have these massive, massive attacks, and then I would like, it would be awful. So a lot of times in the videos and stuff like that, people are like, oh, Sean's eating like a bird, and he's like that. It's not like because I'm trying to be like weird or anything like that. It was because of how I was having to really watch everything with the fat, or I would have these massive attacks. Now though, since I had this removed, I like was able to eat things like I still get some of the things I get, but I got different versions of them. Like I got the yogurt that I like at Menchie's all the time, but I got the one that was peanut butter and had fat in it, and was higher fat, no problems. I put like the tofu on something that would normally give me this massive problem, no problem. So it's kind of nice to for once not be able to have that worry of these things. At least I'm never gonna eat fried and that kind of stuff. I also was kind of feeling like it was kind of keeping me on track in a weird way, because like with eating, because I was like, well, if I keep this gallbladder in there and have these pains, it's very easy to never eat anything bad again, because I can't eat anything bad again, because it's like, look what's going to happen to you if you do. But I kind of got over that thing and realized that, I just still have to like look at what I'm eating, be really careful, watch the calories, not go crazy, and that's what I'm doing, so I'm going to continue to do. Because, with losing weight, it's not like you're on a diet, to be honest. It's like, it's really your life. Unless, you kind of have to stick with it for forever, and I know that. I know that with me, I'm going to have times when I can kind of eat something a little different now, but I'm going to still stick with it and for the rest of my life. Like, I'm never going back to being like I was before. Like, that would be, that's not even an option, you know what I mean, like, at all. I know some people kind of would like me to, and they say, oh, you were funnier that way, or whatever, but, like, I don't think I'd be alive now if I stuck with that. But I also don't think I might have lived forever with this gallbladder the way it was getting, because it was getting really bad. But what I was doing, too, if I did have an attack, the way I would control an attack, and it was kind of stupid, but it was always working, because a lot of people actually said they did this, and I read on lots of message boards this is what they were doing, and it was working, and it was working pretty well for me. The second I felt an attack coming, it would kind of, sometimes I'd be like, oh no, is this an attack? And I'd get the burps and that, and then like I'd be like, oh, it went away, it wasn't that. Maybe it was a mild one, or it was gone in a few minutes, but then I would feel those times when the waves were coming, and I was having the pain, and then it was lasting. I'm like, oh no. So what I would do was, I would go and get apple cider vinegar, which is, this really strong acidic thing. I don't know what you normally would use it for. I guess I don't know what you use apple cider vinegar for, like, cooking-wise. I think certain recipes and stuff. But, like, I was taking it and mixing it with apple juice. And then you would basically put, like, a decent amount, like a little bit of this in a cup, and then mix in this whole thing of apple juice and mix it together, and then you drink it. And for some reason, drinking this, when you had an attack coming, it would go away. I have no idea why it was doing that. It's something about it would like stop the formation of something in your gallbladder, and it would kind of the digestion thing or something. It would keep it under control, and for some reason it was working. So when I would have these attacks, like if I was at the gym and had this massive attack, I'd go home and go, oh no, I gotta drink the apple cider vinegar. And like too, like when I was going away to Vegas and stuff, like people were like, "Why weren't you eating much of anything there?" and all that. That's, to be honest, why. Like I really look forward to going back there again, like in a couple of months or whenever I go back, and being able to actually eat something now, and like go to the buffet or something, and like get the crab and the shrimp and the stuff that I like, and not have to worry anymore, because it was getting kind of miserable. I was having like some really bad like depression from these gallbladders. I'm not gonna lie, and also the other thing that was causing attacks for me was stress. Anything in life or YouTube, any of that, all that kind of stuff wasn't helping. So that was like, especially in the last couple of months, and it leads to more with the gallbladder, and like for some reason, if anything really stressful happens, that brings on a gallbladder attack. So I have to kind of remain now I'm not as worried as much, but before, like, it was like, oh, anything stressful, then I'd be like, oh no, I hope I don't have a gallbladder attack from that. And usually it would lead to one. And I have no idea if any of you guys have gallbladder issues. If you guys ever noticed anything like that, let me know in the comments below. If you ever had, like, for some reason, something stressful would kind of bring it on the next day or two, you'd have a problem. But like I said, that's how I was controlling an attack, and I was going and continuously eating less and less, and it was like, oh, well, now that's off the list, and now I can't eat there anymore. I used to go to like this place, Urban Plates, and I used to like this quinoa thing, and like I was always eating healthy things, but, like I said, it was continuously crossing off things off the list, and it was down to, like, the faux noodle soup, like Annie's or whatever the place is, faux noodle soup, and, like, Panera bread pieces, and PB2, but even sometimes PB2 was causing attacks. So it was, like, it wasn't good, and it was just, like, to the point of, like, I continuously couldn't take this any longer, and then the apple cider vinegar, the last time I was having the bad attack, which was, like, maybe it was just about 2 weeks ago, right when I went to the hospital that day, it wasn't working, and I did it like 2 doses of having that. I was like really just sort of feeling sick from drinking so much of that, That didn't help at all. And I'm like, so I go in the hospital, and I talk to the doctor, and he says my liver enzymes are super high. He's like, they're 5 times more than they should be. And he's really concerned about it. And he's like, listen, Sean, if I am able to schedule you in for having the surgery today, would you do it? And I was like, oh. And then, because originally he was like, I might want to have you stay here overnight for a day to monitor your testing. I'm like, well, if I'm going to stay here, I would rather have the surgery and get it over with, so I don't have to keep stewing about this, because I told him how the stress was making it even worse. So if I kind of stressed about it and worried about it more, it was going to make it even worse, and I just keep on having them. So I finally agreed to have the surgery. I ended up having it that, I think I went in at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and then I had the surgery at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, something like that. So I stayed in the hospital, and I wasn't allowed to drink anything, so I got so dehydrated in there. Like, I never got so dehydrated in my life, because I went to the gym the night before. That night at like 11 or 12, I got out of the gym, and then at 4 o'clock the attacks started at the gym. I started having the attacks, on the that night. So I really couldn't eat anything. All I ate was like some noodles, and like I couldn't put butter in the noodles ever anymore. So I did really weird. So I put like ketchup on noodles and stuff, because I was like, I couldn't have anything with the it was becoming a nightmare to be honest with you. But like I said, I went to the hospital with all this stuff going on, was getting so fed up with the whole thing, and he said this to me. And one of the reasons I didn't do the surgery was because I was so afraid of being put to sleep. Like, I remember, I don't know, something about this, like the idea of being put to sleep really freaked me out, and I was really scared about the whole thing. And like I said, I never had any surgery where I was put to sleep like any other time. I had like some really bad dentistry work as a kid, and I had this tooth that never came down. They tried to pull it down, and I could have been put to sleep with that like laughing gas stuff, but I didn't want to do that. So I had all these shots. I had like 7 or 8 shots in this roof of my mouth. It was horrible. But like I never would do that put to sleep thing. It creeped me out. But after having so many problems with this and so much stress, and like basically some nights like crying about the whole thing, it really got terrible about the whole thing, about these pains and everything. It was driving me. I was absolutely, to be honest with you, I was driving me absolutely crazy. The whole thing. And less I could eat. I felt like sort of like I was a doomsday prepper, because it was like the same food, the same thing all the time. I could never eat anything. I had to worry about anything. Like, anybody I went out with to get food with in videos and stuff, like Danny and stuff, he knows it was like really bad. I couldn't eat anything. So he'd have to go and like get his like food later and stuff, and because he didn't want to eat any of the crap that I had to do. It was basically nothing. It was like when I went to Vegas and stuff like that, all I could eat was like rice and stuff. I was eating nothing. But like I said, I decided to finally have that surgery, and I met the doctor, and he kind of reminded me a little bit of like Mr. Belding from Saved by the Bell. Like, he kind of looked like and talked like him, and I was like, well, he did it. But like I said, I got so dehydrated while I was like waiting, because I wasn't allowed to drink anything or eat anything, and I only ate a little tiny bit after the gym, and I burned all these calories. So I was in there like sort of almost passing out from being so dehydrated. And they had like the thing in my vein, the IV, but it was really bad. I was really dehydrated and like just about to pass out. I don't know if they put something in the IV too that was like to sort of crap me out, because I was feeling kind of weird the whole time. And then I remember going into the surgery room. I met the guy who was the anesthesiologist, and he was like talking to him, and he like really knew what he was doing. And the one thing with me too, I was really got afraid right before I went in, because they were saying how I have a really low pulse, and like because of losing so much weight, and which is so weird. They're like, you're so healthy now, everything is so low and normal, because it's so weird for me to be like that, because before everything was a disaster. My blood pressure was as high as possible. It was like 160, 170. It was terrible. I was on high blood pressure medicine and all that kind of stuff. But like, luckily enough, the guy was like, oh yeah, I'm not worried, because I can adjust your heart rate and all that stuff when I'm doing the anesthesiologist and putting you to sleep. But I remember just going into the room, and then they started injecting the thing. I said, what does that do? And he's like, oh, you're seeing a minute. And it was really weird. And then all of a sudden I just wake up, and I'm like in another room, and it was done. And it was like really weird. It was a really weird experience. You know what I mean? And my chest was shaved. They shaved off all the chest, and I was like, oh, I thought they were going to shave everything. It was really weird. I didn't expect that to happen. But then I woke up in there, and you have to stay in there. Like I said, I had that done at 12 or 1 o'clock. Then I had to stay in there for like 24 hours, and I left the next day at like 12 o'clock in the afternoon. And they kind of have to like watch you and then make sure you're able to eat. And then they brought me stuff too. Like, first they started with like broth of like just like a clear broth of like, and then like like Italian ice, and then the next day they brought like Mexican food, tacos and stuff. I'm like, well, I haven't eaten this in like tacos or anything like this in like almost 2 years. I said, I can't eat this. I can't like jump right into something that different. But luckily enough, I have not had any problems so far, like with food wise. Like I said, I've eaten like some tofu things, and I ate like a chicken noodle soup, which was like one from Noodles and Company, which was like not like a zero fat one. You know, like I said, I was always zero fat, and like things that I would have got that would have caused problems, like the yogurt that had fat in it and all that would have caused me issues, have not had any. So if any of you guys are thinking about having the gallbladder removed, like look into it. If you guys have ever had those kind of pains and stuff, this was kind of just me kind of talking about the whole thing. I kind of wanted to just discuss the whole thing, and like, you know, what it was like for me doing it and what kind of made me decide to finally have the surgery and all that stuff. But like I said, I woke up in there and they kind of check on you and make sure you can fart. That was one of the things they say. Once you pass gas, you can leave, and like, and make sure you can urinate and pass gas. I'm like, okay. And then if then the nurse was in there, I was like, well, I farted, and she's like, oh, that's good. And like, it's like really, it was kind of weird. They have to make sure you can do that, and then they listen to your stomach to make sure it's like making noise and stuff. Really kind of weird thing going on there, but that's the way it is. They have to make sure everything is still all right. But this is just like my video, like I said, talking about living with gallstones, and then, you know, why I decided to finally have my gallbladder removed. Like I said, if you guys have had, you know, surgery as well, let me know kind of like what your experience was like. But everything, like I said, it seems to be going well now. I don't regret at all doing this, and I pulled, you know, I made it through the anesthesia and no problems and stuff. So I'm glad it all worked out, and I'm glad I finally did this, because like I said, I don't think I could have taken it much longer. The stress of it, of having these attacks, and then worrying about what I was eating continuously, and like having like less and less things I could eat, because it was getting to the point where I don't think I was going to be able to eat PB2 anymore, which is powdered peanut butter. This is like one of the only things I really was liking anymore. So it's kind of like, well, if I can't even eat the PB2, what am I going to do? You know, I mean, that's what it was like, because I was like, well, what am I going to eat now? And like I said, because that was like really one of the only things that was like left anymore. But anyway, though, guys, thanks again for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.